So we're going to move now into session 10. Session 10, the presence activation statement is, I appreciate myself. I appreciate myself. And as we said yesterday, appreciation is a double-edged word. Appreciate is a way of saying I'm grateful for, but it's also when I have stocks and shares and they appreciate, they become more. So when I say I appreciate myself, out of gratitude I am growing my own awareness, my garden of awareness. I'm taking care of myself and letting that, what I take care of, radiate and become more into my experience. When we come into this world and we're not accepted for who we are, because nobody can accept us but ourselves, no one has that insight but ourselves, and so I run through my childhood radiating myself and not seeing it come back, then what's happening is I become uncomfortable about my state of being. My state of being isn't acknowledged or validated or truly recognized in the world. And so I place no value on that. And what I do instead is I think, well, what can I do then to be accepted? What can I do to get the love I'm looking for? Because just being me doesn't seem to be good enough. So then I run through the world and enter a state of doing, to a point that when I become an adult, I believe that my purpose is something that I do. And so I will say, if I could just find out what it is I come here to do, I'll be happy. Ever heard that one? If I can just find out what I'm supposed to do in this world, I'll be really happy. I'll be at peace. Our purpose becomes a doing. But actually our purpose is a state of being. That's what we come here to access and to share and to anchor into this experience. And that state of being can be accomplished no matter what we're doing. It's not based on any doing. I can access that state of being clearing up trash. I can access that state of being while I'm working as an accountant. There's a simple way that we can begin to activate the state of being for ourselves. Remember last night I said people want to form groups. Let's do a presence process group. Get together and do that, right? And then we're going to enter another inauthentic experience, an artificial experience in which we want to be authentic. When our group is the life we're born into, is the people around us in our world, is the people we meet every day, the barista who's making our coffee, the person at the cash register. And that's the group that can bring us into our authentic state of being and how we are with them. And it's very simple. Between me and between you and anyone else in the world, there's a gap. Between me and you, there's a gap. And in that gap is the world. The world occurs in the gap between us. Now, in that gap, there's a lot of stuff. And my attention is either on the stuff of the gap. For example, this pen is something that occurs between you and me. It's the stuff in the gap. My attention is either on the stuff in the gap or it's on you. If it's on the stuff in the gap, usually I'm moving further away from you if I'm placing more and more attention on the stuff in the gap. The stuff in the gap is neutral. It's absolutely neutral. I say what it's for by the way I use it with my intent. So I can take this pen and I can use it to write love poetry to you. Or I can take this pen and write hate mail to you. The same pen. I can use it to bring me closer to you, or I can use it to push me away from you. I'm the one who says what the stuff is for. Or I can try and find myself in the stuff. So let's see. If I get this car, this big car, will I be me eventually? Now, in each moment of our life, no matter what we're doing, we're either opening the gap or closing the gap. Now, the funny thing about this gap is, this gap between me and the gap between you and anybody else, that's the same gap as between me and God and you and God. Because our authentic identity, remember, is our presence that's in us, the ray that comes from the sun. That's what we all share. The presence within us, that's our authentic identity. Whenever I look at anybody, I'm just looking at me, really. That's why it's a hall of mirrors. So what is my intention here? Is my intention to open the gap or to close the gap? When I go and buy stuff in the store, am I focused on the stuff as the cashier's ringing it up? Am I going, oh, I wonder if I've got enough stuff for dinner? Look at the prices of the stuff these days. Gosh. Or am I, how are you? How are you doing today? Thanks for helping me out here. Because if my attention is on the stuff, I'm moving away from the presence in front of me. And it's always the same presence in front of me, because there is only one presence. Is my attention on the presence or on the stuff? And what am I using the stuff for? Because the propensity of the universe is to close the gap. Love seeks itself out. Love runs towards itself and backs anything that is for that mission. So I can go through life trying to find myself in the stuff and accumulate lots of it and enter the blood, sweat and tears path and work really hard to have lots of stuff. But I'll find as I do that, I'm going to get further and further away from the presence. Because really, the universe can't support that, because that's all based on fear and reaction. And love can't support fear. It'll allow it because it's non-interfering. It doesn't go into fear. It will allow it. But if I say, well, I would rather use the stuff in my life to close the gap, to bring me closer to those around me. Whatever I have, its only purpose is to bring me into a greater state of presence and being with those around me. No matter how that looks, because I can do that at work. My being at work is only really an excuse to be and show up with the people that are around me. Everything else that goes on is just stuff. When I set that as my intent is to close the gap, to get as close to God as I possibly can. Then the universe shows up to back that. Because now I don't need the stuff for me. It's not a want and need thing. I'm not accumulating for the sake of accumulation. I'm not in a state of iniquity. It's just tools. It's just a means for me to be in this world, to be with you. And when I enter that, I will find I always have all the tools I need. I have everything I require to do that, because the universe supports that. And my sense of lack will suddenly subside. And also what happens is that God starts winking back. When I get that, all I'm trying to do is get close to God. God will pop up in the weirdest moments and say the strangest things to me over the groceries while I'm talking to the cash register. But when that happens, when I start having those experiences, when God starts winking at me and saying things to me out of nowhere, going, that I just know, this is not the cashier. This is presence speaking right to me in that moment. The worst thing I can do is go home and tell my companion, you know what happened to me today? This happened. So we're one. Our oneness. You can't stay in oneness if you're acting like there's two. Whenever we have a oneness experience, which comes from starting to have a relationship with presence, the moment I start to have a conscious relationship with my own presence, and therefore I'm able to start having a conscious relationship with the presence and everyone around me, and presence starts winking at me and going, you're on the right track. The last thing I must do is tell anybody. And what we do is we run around telling everyone about our oneness experiences, which is what we're saying is, I'm not really one. If I was one, I wouldn't have to tell you, right? So protect those. That's your treasure. When you have those experiences of oneness, put them in your treasure chest, and they will grow, and you will have more. Appreciate them. Take care of them. They're rare gems, and you'll get more and more of them. So it's a simple tool. Those are simple tools that we can use to access our state of being. It's not about anything we do. It's about what I'm being in any moment with those around me. And once I start to go down that road, I will discover what it means that my purpose is not a doing. I'm a human being. I'm here to be in this world. To be here fully. To be here absolutely fully. That's the extraordinary experience. Because when I'm able to be here fully, I'm not trying to get away, that's when I enter the profound spiritual experience that this life is.